All right. Can you hear me now? All right. Let me know. How does my audio sound? I figured I'd join with you guys, talk about some of the things I've got going on. I want to hear about what you've got going on, and if you've got any questions about creative financing or about real estate. Thank you. That should have fixed it. So yeah, so wild Monday here. Just within the last little bit, we now have a storm coming this way. I'm in the New Orleans area, so that can look different. I mean, obviously being from here, we're used to that stuff, but when you own properties, I've got to say, hey, okay, when I have a storm coming this way, I'm like, man, how many of them are vacant? You know, obviously you try to not have vacancies, but I'm under contract to buy 4, but today we're supposed to sign the 5th one. And all of those, the ones that I'd be buying, are vacant. So when a storm comes, I have to think about all of those vacant properties. So, but hope you guys are doing good. Let's talk through, you know, if you guys got questions about real estate, about creative financing, I'm here to chat with y'all. I'll kind of just fill in some gaps, talking about some of the stuff I'm working on today. And then when I see your questions come through, I'll answer them. So as I mentioned, you know, just doing some storm prep, mostly just acknowledging which properties are vacant, that we're going to have to do something about them. And then, you know, all my property managers will be letting my tenants know, you know, kind of just normal protocol for a hurricane. So hopefully it'll be a fast mover and there's no real, you know, events, but at the same time, we're watching it pretty closely. So, but other than that, I'm actually going out of the country in 2 weeks. And so one, I want to kind of do these daily lives just to talk real estate, answer some questions, and just kind of talk about things I've got going on. But I figured I wanted to do that. I know obviously I put out content, but I don't always do like Q&As or just a lot more talking with you guys. So know that's kind of part of what I'll be doing here. So in 2 weeks, I'll be going out of the country. So right now my brain's all around like, you know, what loose ends do I need to tie up? And then ultimately I've got, you know, whenever we saw about this storm, I was like, man, I got time for that. I'm trying to tackle things. And so, hey, Peter, hope you're doing well. It's been a minute. He says, how do you cover for elderly tenants? So what do we do with storm prep with elderly tenants? I'll be honest, again, my property managers will let them know that, you know, they need to secure outside items, you know, contact us if there's any, you know, damage. What they'll do is, after the storm, they'll reach out to them to see about like damage or, what, you know, really what the condition. A lot of times they'll go to the property to check on the condition themselves. But for someone who's old, you know, elderly, they're still responsible for themselves. If they're the point where they can't take care of themselves, then that's where we're going to go to the emergency contact. You know, hey, do you have friends or family in the area? To my knowledge, I don't have a single tenant that is to the point where they can't take care of themselves. And so there's a level there that we haven't had an extreme case of taking care of that. And, you know, this is going to be they perceive maybe a category 1, maybe a category 2 hurricane, which, you know, it's not a major event, but it's a quick moving one. And, you know, there's some concerns about tornadoes, right? And so there's a level there that there's like protocol. If a property is occupied, we have protocol. We have protocol if a property is vacant. And then there's kind of pre-storm protocol. And then there's, you know, after a storm protocol of how do we check in? What do we communicate with tenants? And then it's really going to be assessing damage and assessing like what are the next steps. I don't know if that answers your question, Peter, but let me know if not. So right now I've got 4 properties under contract that are brand new construction. So completed, new construction. And so they are vacant. And so I'm under contract to buy them, here in the next few weeks from the builder to keep as rentals. And so part of that is, yes, I'm under contract to buy them, but it is the builder, the owner's responsibility to prep them. Now, on the rare occasion, if I'm buying from like a motivated seller, so in January there was a freeze, and I bought from a motivated seller who was in rehab. And so they were not living in the house, and we were about to have a freeze. And so we went and prepped that vacant property. It didn't have utilities or anything on, and so we wanted to make sure that, we were about to close on it. So we wanted to make sure, and it was 2 blocks from the lake, so not lakefront, but as close as you could get to it. So we wanted to make sure, we protected it. Connie said that, hope we don't lose power again in Houston. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest issues I think we're going to face here in New Orleans is just, I swear, I just don't trust infrastructure. I think that's something that may go out. So just, paying attention to that. So one of the other things, so let's see, right now I'm preparing for, I've got some properties that I'm going to be selling. So that we have one that's some mobile homes that I'll be selling, and that's vacant. So we're paying attention to that. We'll do what we can to, set them up, prep them, but, then get ready. At a certain point, you've got to say, okay, we did what we could to prepare, and then you rely on insurance, and then you just go check on stuff afterwards. But, so what are you guys working on right now? As I mentioned, I've got 4 new construction properties I am buying. These are properties I'm buying with, partially with private money, and then the other part is with seller financing. And so these will be, they'll be long-term rentals for me. I didn't build them to rent, but they're, but I'm buying them. I inked out a deal with the builder to be able to buy those. So I've got those. That's something I'm trying to close on here before I go to the country in the next 2 weeks. And then I'm hoping today that I sign a contract for a property. Now this one, we'll see if they actually, I think we just were countering yesterday, so we'll see if they'll actually sign it. So these are all ones that I'm trying to close on. I am not a, full staff. I do have, a partner that has a team, and we do deals together. So I've brought him on the deal that we're trying to sign because, look, I'm going out of the country in 2 weeks, and I want to be able to, at a certain point I need to stop making offers, right? If I'm going to be going out of the country in 2 weeks for about 2.5 weeks, that's going to give me, there's a level here where I've got to kind of pull back the reins some. Jocelyn says, trying to buy an investment home in Georgia. It's only $20K and probably needs about $10K in work. All right, Jocelyn. So is this going to be a rental? Is this going to be a, something that you flip? What are you looking for that? And is this a single family home, in Georgia? Other thing is, while Jocelyn's answering me on that, as I'm gearing up to go to the country here, I'm actually also, I'll have you guys weigh in. I'm trying to figure out what book to bring with me. If you haven't seen my home library, I was just thinking through that last night. Which one do I want to bring with me? She said a rental, a single family. That's great, Jocelyn. I know that right now rentals are the thing that makes the most sense for me with my purchases. So that's awesome. I'm cheering you on for that. Troy said, hey, Courtney, any recommended mindset reads if you'd like to share? Yeah, Troy, I'd love that. Mindset, give me a little bit more on that, Troy. You mean, what do you mean mindset? Because I think that's a very broad, very broad topic. So for example, within mindset, there's mental toughness. There's there's mindset about money. There's kind of a lot of little niches. Let me do this. let me see if this will, yeah, it'll let me. So don't ever look to the dogs for motivation. All right. So for mindset, I'm a big fan of Napoleon Hill. So anything by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read like Think and Grow Rich, I'm a big believer in this one by Napoleon Hill. For more personal development, I'm actually, let's see. I think one of my favorite parts about extreme ownership is this idea that like, that you take control. So this is a really good one. This is a really practical book. I love suggesting this one. This is fantastic for like getting the, like taking the next, like basically it's like, how do you, develop habits, things like that. So I think this one, if you want self-development, I think something like this one, this is the number one book I recommend. It is written in a, story format. But so that's something that this is the number one. It's going to be about thoughts around success. So hopefully that helps. Lots to kind of think about there. All right. So do you own other real estate in different states, and how do you feel about that? Great question. And for those who are just joining, guys, you got any questions, I am here. I'm going to hang out with you guys for a bit and answer them. So, yes, I do. So I'm based in New Orleans. I own properties in South Louisiana. And I also own properties in South Mississippi. I'll be honest, the stuff in South Mississippi has kicked my butt. Thankfully, I bought such a great deal in an area that has been appreciating. So, which I think has lessened the learning curve. I think when you own in different states, you should own by design, not by default, if that makes sense, okay? Like, and here's the hardest thing is, you should heavily do research into that area, because you've got to build your team. The hardest thing, I live an hour from these properties, okay? The hardest thing is I am going from a fast-paced like city to like a beach town, and I swear they're slow as molasses there. Love them, bless their heart, but like I feel like I run circles around them, and so I'm having a hard time, getting proper, property management's probably been my hardest one. We just, we had fired a property manager. Now that one there was more issues involved there. But so your team matters. So wherever you invest, you also know that the strength, like a deal can look good on paper, but if you don't have the team to back you up, like that's not going to, whatever you have on paper, it's worth this much. You're going to buy it for this much. The rehab's going to be this much. It can rent for this much, and you can cash flow, X, Y, Z. Sure, that sounds good on paper, but who's going to help you achieve that? And then here's the other thing. So I live in New Orleans, and I see out-of-state investors struggle in New Orleans all the time because they don't realize things like, okay, we just found out we have a hurricane coming here, right? Well, if they don't understand what those things look like, if they don't have the proper team built in place, this is just something that like you guys don't, if you're in Kansas, you don't deal with, but y'all deal with, tornadoes. And we used to not deal with those, but we're starting to deal with those. We've been having more and more of those, but like it's just not something that we often have to, deal with. And so every market's going to have its own nuances and things that you've got to kind of, keep in mind. So I'm a big fan. Honestly, my stuff in Mississippi, I'm trying to sell it. Probably this year, beginning of next year, I'll be working on selling my stuff in Mississippi. And if I do anything in Mississippi, it's going to be not value add where it needs, rehabbing and stuff like that. I'll probably do my normal legacy properties, which are like 2,000 and newer, single family, so nicer houses and nicer neighborhoods. And then I probably do some land deals in Mississippi. But like anything that's like management intensive, I'm not interested. So if anything, I'm trying to simplify the investments I have. For years, I've bought a lot of different types of properties, but now I am, I'm wanting to buy more, specific, and I'm trying to bring them closer back to home. I've been doing anything within an hour, but that means Baton Rouge, that means the North Shore, that means South Mississippi, and all of those markets are different. I've had, my handyman I was going to do this at 8:00 this morning, but my handyman was here at my house doing some repairs for me. And there's a level there that he'll travel for me because I give him a lot of work. But there's a level that he won't go to certain areas. So you said, so Build and Earn said trying to buy more turnkey rentals. It's a good question. I have what I call a legacy property. And let me be clear, clarity helps. Okay. So for years I bought the deal in front of me. So I would buy the low end rental that was in, a Class D neighborhood or a war zone. I still have one of those. I say one of those left that, when I bought multiple houses on that neighborhood, and on that street. And some of the houses, one of them had a bullet in the side of the house. And the tenant was like, what do you want to do with that? I was like, just leave it. Just leave it. So I've bought, low end. I've bought high end. I've bought, single family houses. I've bought multifamily. I have my RV parks. I have single trailers. I've got land, small and large. So I've bought a lot. And a lot of times I buy the deal that, was in front of me. But now, one of the big things I'm doing, I'm still buying the deals in front of me, but I'm getting very clear on what I want my portfolio to look like. And I call them legacy properties. They're 1990 and newer, but I prefer 2000 and newer. I have a few 1990s, but I think at some point I might, they're getting to be 30 years old, right? At some point I'll probably upgrade those. But 1990s and newer. So the last legacy property I just built was 2012. I'm under contract to buy 4 more legacy properties. They are 2024 completed new builds in a great area, great school district. And so what I want is nice single family homes in nice areas. They tend to be, because I buy with creative financing, they tend to be nicer turnkey. I'll also be honest, I've gotten very lazy where I don't, if it needs more than, 30 in rehab, 30, 35 in rehab, I start to get disinterested. So there's a level there that, again, I'll still buy other properties, but my exit strategy might look different. I've bought some of those properties and then sold them on financing to someone else. I may wholesale them. I may own them with one of my business partners where we have a portfolio where we're really just stepping into equity, and then in a few years we're going to sell, right? So you said dealing with less headaches. Really, think about it as this, so in my portfolio, I want 25 nice houses in nice neighborhoods, and everything else I have, at some point I will sell, and it will support the 25 nice houses and nice neighborhoods. So right now I'm in the process of trading up my portfolio to where there are less headaches, but it's also I believe the types of properties you have attract the tenants, So some people are like, oh, I love multifamily because if one moves out, your income isn't, too impacted. Well, look what's happening in Aurora right now, right? Bad tenants are impacting the other good tenants, right? So there's a level there. I prefer single family homes. I prefer nice houses in nice neighborhoods. I don't like anything like a 5-bedroom. I like 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 or 3 bath, 1,300 to I think my biggest is 2,300 square feet, 1990 or newer, good neighborhood, right? So I'm talking like good school districts. People, I love it when it's a neighborhood that doesn't have a ton of rentals, but it's in an area that people want to rent in. So those are really what I'm looking for. Again, there's going to be demand for them because of their location. Like, location matters to me. These 4 new constructions that I just got under contract with are in a great location. So those are all, things that I look at. So great question. Absolutely. I'm trying to attract, you said, tenant selection is really important. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to attract the right tenants. Kind of said, thank you for looking for a good team first and researching area. Thanks so much. Different elements in different states, for sure. So when you're thinking about where to invest, a lot of people when I go and speak at conferences throughout the US, and so, I've got friends from all over, they're just like, I think sometimes it's hard for me to justify New Orleans because, New Orleans is not exactly topping, charts here for good reasons, right? So, but here's the thing. You want to look in places like the South and the Midwest are really good for places where you can cash flow and things like that. But a lot of them aren't going to be the best for appreciation, right? It's got to be based on your goals. Here's what I would say. Whatever state you invest in, you need to know what the landlord tenant laws are. For example, I have friends right now who've invested in Colorado for years, decades. One of my friends, Mr. Dave, he's been investing in Colorado for decades. He is seeing the state change before his eyes. And I'm looking forward to catching up with him. I have a trip coming up here where I'll get a chance to catch up with him. But I want to ask him at some point, will he leave? Because literally the laws in Colorado are changing from a landlord-friendly state to a more tenant-friendly state. And I'm curious how that's his, impact him as someone who's, full-time landlord. So those things matter. Wherever you go, you want to understand. And then there's some states that are just a lot harder. You want to be careful in the states like, certain states like California and New York, New Jersey, really like parts of Illinois can be tough. Some of those can be very tough, so you just want to be mindful. You want to say, hey, look, how long will it take to, for example, if someone doesn't pay? So literally here on my laptop, I'm going to show you guys. I was just starting to do a 5-day notice to vacate. I sold a property to someone on a lease option, and I have been working them like crazy, trying to help them. They've hit some snags, multiple snags for a while now, and we've just gotten to the point where they're not communicating anymore. And so now it's, unfortunately, I'm going to have to move forward, right? But I should be able to get them, access back to the property in just a few weeks here. Probably with this hurricane coming in, probably 2-3 weeks, something like that. We'll see. Christina asks, where do you go to research, learn the landlord tenant laws? Great question. A really good resource that I like, and I've got my laptop here, so I'm gonna pull it up just so I know I'm talking about the right thing. But I really like the National Apartment Owners Association. So the National Apartment Owners Association has resources, but you don't have to be an apartment owner to like respect their resources. So let's see. Oh, don't mind my dog. He's the male person just dropped off stuff. The National Apartment Association. So like, there's resources. All right, so they have operational resource library, browse all topics. I want to say, like, they have really great resources. Let me do this. All right, so this is the National Association, Apartment Association headquarters. So their operational one. So look, if you just go to the National Apartment Association's website, and industry operations compliance, and if you go to operational resource library right here, and then you'll see here, so they've got fair housing, like resources on fair housing, accessibility. So again, this is thinking about apartment owners, but there's a lot that can apply to you. Let's see. So obviously community maintenance, HR, rent collection, management, agreements. Let's see, obviously COVID stuff. I want to say they had stuff on the states. Oh, here we go. Landlord and tenant laws. And so you've got an overview. And then I want to say they had more state by state breakdown of landlord tenant laws, but it's March 2019, so you may need to get some more up to date. So they're a good one. And Build and Earn, I am going to put this, my goal is to save this live and put it on my YouTube channel. It may let me save it and put it on my Instagram, but that's asking a lot of me to know if it'll do that. But this is a great resource. I would also think that the National Association of Real Estate Investors, the RIA, but the national one may have some. But I've always really enjoyed the National Apartment Association. They have a lot of stuff for you to review. So let's see. But then they also have, let's see, they have like different like research. I have seen stuff on here for like if someone has a like a dog, like a service dog or an emotional support dog. So there's stuff like that. Great question. Any other questions, you guys? So it can be about real estate specific. There we go. Real estate specific, or it can be about creative financing, either one. I'm hanging out with you guys, and you're welcome for that. That's something that you, I think it's important to research it. But here's the thing. I didn't fully research New Orleans before I invested in it. Why did I invest here? I invested here because it's what I knew, right? Do I suggest you do that? No, you could probably improve on what I did, right? But then again, I think there's other ways that you could, I got into the local real estate investor meetups and, learned about the market. One of the best pieces of advice I got when I first started out was, to learn the game before you play the game. Because if you learn the game before you play the game, you can limit some of your risk, right? But obviously, part of that's mentorship. Part of that is just understanding your market. There's just a fine line there. You've got to say, okay, at a certain point, I'm just going to get my feet wet. So, any other questions, you guys? Any questions on something that you're working on? You guys want me to do a deal breakdown on something I'm working on? We're hanging out. Is the market shaky right now? That's a good question. So Miranda, I've been investing for 10 years. Been in the industry here now for 10 years. In the last 10 years, really the market's done this. So this is my first changing market. I am doing my best to stay informed. So I'm going to lead with, this is new territory for me. But many of you have heard me reference, I have what I call my gray-haired mentors. I have 5 mentors who have influenced me the most. They are all, 4 of them are still with us. One of them is no longer with us. But 4 of them are in their 70s or 80s. Okay. Oh no, they're all in their late 70s, mid to late 70s at this point. And I spent a lot of time, even more since 2020, I've been really spending time with them each because I feel like they are what are going to help me prepare for a changing market. Why? Because I do think we're in a changing market. What do I think will become the outcome of it? I don't know. But here's the sentiment I'm seeing. There's a lot of people who are in my market, whether it's just your normal home buyers, whether it is, and other investors. I'm seeing a lot of people sit on the sideline, meaning that as they're sitting on the sideline, there's less activity. And so because of that, and I'm seeing that in the New Orleans market, okay? So this is going to be market specific and changing in ways where it's less. Okay, so let me give you an example. I have a phone call I need to make later today or tomorrow morning, depending on when they want to call and talk. This is a property, they listed it for sale. It is in a desirable school district, a desirable area. They listed it for sale at $385. The agent called me when they were at $330, okay, and like 6 months on the market, or like something like that. And I offered to buy the property subject to the loan. It was a condo. It needed paint, it needed flooring, it needed a stove, and some repairs to one of the bathrooms. Nothing, and the repairs, it was updating to one of the bathrooms, okay? Nothing crazy. Literally, it went down. They declined that offer. They're like, let's try the market, a little bit more. And they went all the way down to $270. Okay. They owe $225 on their loan, and they have a $20,000 judgment on the property. So I know, they're getting down to their closer and closer to what they owe. Every other property that was for sale in that condo association now, if I go and I buy that property, let's just say for $250, then, subject to the loan plus subject to that lien, and maybe a little money in their pocket, there's a level that is the wheeling and dealing they're looking to do right now is the comps for every other condo that's now currently for sale. So when I say changing, I'm saying I do think there's some values that are changing, right? So prices, but there's a level that there's a lot of things that can impact that. So in a changing market, do I think the market's a little shaky right now? I personally believe in the greater New Orleans market between now and Mardi Gras, which will be around February, that there'll be a dull in the market. Seasonally, this is the slowest time of our end of August to Mardi Gras is normally when transactions are low. Just the holidays, things like that. Even in 2021, right? This is our lowest, dull of the year. With the election coming up, with the overall, economy issues, people are, struggling at the gas pump, they're struggling with groceries, they're struggling, with job stability, all of that. I'm seeing this as a window to where I think the market will be slow, meaning transactions will be slow. And so therefore, I'm actually on the hunt right now. I walked 30 something, 35 properties in the last little bit, and went under contract with 4 of them, and hopefully the 5th one coming up here soon, and seeing like, hey, what can I buy right now? But what can I buy with safe financing? So when a market is shaky, I want the best. I want to go after better properties. So not just buying, whoever will wheel and deal, but the properties I have under contract are in a great location. That's what I want, because even if the market were to do, let's just say, continue to get worse, I'm buying properties in better areas that are going to be in demand. So, is it shaky? That was long-winded. I think so. It's going to depend on where you're at. A lot of you guys are all across the U.S. And so I think the best thing you do is to do research on your own market. The best way you can do that is go find the people who are doing a ton of business. So property managers who manage a lot of properties. Realtors who, normally do a lot of transaction of sales. Wholesalers that are doing a lot. Flippers, contractors that have a lot of business. Title companies, fill in the different niches. And whether you're taking a lunch, coffee, go phone call, stop by their office, just say, hey, look, I'm just trying to do some, and maybe these are existing relationships you have. I'm curious, have you seen business slow? Hey, I'm curious, what are you seeing right now with your business? Are things picking up? Mortgage officers, are things picking up? What do you, all of those things are really, that's going to, at the end of the day, vary market by market. But the best piece I got, one of my gray-haired guys told me, he said, go learn from the people in the trenches. And so one of the things I've done is people who are in the trenches, I don't flip. So I've got a few friends that I'll call frequently who are some of the biggest flippers in this market. And I'll say, hey, how's business been? I've got 3 that come to mind that buy about 50 properties a year and flip them. Literally, they buy low, renovate, and sell. And so they're the type of people who, that's not my model. That's not what I do. So I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, what are you seeing? Hey, what's going on? This is why relationships are so huge. Did I have those day one? No. I still go to the RIA meetings as frequently as possible in my area, because I want to continue to build those relationships. I will take people to lunch, take people coffee all the time, just to say, hey, I want to build an ally and things like that. So I think it really depends on where you're located, and I also think it depends on your strategy. Some strategies are doing a lot better than others. So again, I think it just kind of depends. See, we had some more questions up here. Thank you for that one, Miranda. Connie said, would you pull out a HELOC on your property to do renovations to potentially get more money? So great question. My very first deal I bought, so I bought a property with cash. It was, $40,100 is how much I bought it for, my very first property. And I had, that inheritance for the $40,000, which is a lot of money, but not a lot of money, right? I moved into it. I basically did a live-in flip. I moved into it for a few years and then I sold it. I got a HELOC. That was when I was still in my property manager, my W-2 job at the marina. And so I got a home equity line of credit on it. And I used that for deal 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4. And that line of credit. And that was really helpful for me to get into deals. Would I get a HELOC to improve the property right now? I'll be honest. Everything I'm doing right now is I'm trying to stabilize my properties. Meaning I don't want any type of hiccups. I want, if there's a tenant in there, I want them to stay happy. If, again, I want my debt to be pretty consistent. I don't want any surprises with my debt. So I would probably be hesitant, because lines of credits are one of those things that when a market is shaky, it is one of the things in the past that banks have tapped. So And it's interest only, and it's based on the market. So, you do want to be mindful of that. With that being said, right now for some of our properties that, really, it's really hard for us to sell anything right now. So, on the market, if it's not the best product, right? Because I think you need both product and price right now. And so some of our rental stuff that we're like, we don't want to go in and fully renovate them because it's in a little bit of a rural area and we don't think we'd get the money back type of thing. Well, for those, we have all this equity. So we're looking at, raising some private money. But, I have one that's free and clear that's worth about 100, and we're going to go, I'm going to talk to some folks this week and next and say, hey, if anyone has 50,000 they want to put to work, then what we'll do is we'll give them a loan against the property. And 50,000, a loan for 50,000, but it's worth 100, it's pretty safe, right? But that's going to be a fixed rate, right? It's debt that we know is safe and controllable. And we're going to say, hey, let's do a 5-year term, but knowing that our goal is really to turn it into a rental, back into a rental. It was on the market for sale, but we had all that equity. Let's tap into it. But hey, let's go ahead, and right now we pulled it off the market. We did a few little more repairs. We had just put an AC in it. We had just done some plumbing repairs. And then we just went in and did some new flooring, kind of upgraded it. So we previously were getting $775 in rent, but we should be able to get up $1,050 in it now. And we're going to go ahead and raise $50,000 in private money, because again, it's free and clear. And then we're going to go ahead and put it back as a rental. And maybe when the market improves next year, we'll sell it. Right now, any debt that I'm taking on, I want it to be safe. So I'm being very careful. I don't want to take any type of 6 or 12-month balloon. Right now, any balloons I'm agreeing to is easily going to be a 5-year balloon. That's kind of what I feel most comfortable with. Meaning, because I'm seeing a lot of people get hurt right now with a balloon coming due sooner rather than later. So would I do a HELOC? Maybe. I think I'm just not as, I would feel that could be a little bit more risky right now in this market. Because if you don't have to, then I don't think you need, it'd be something I'd want to do. I'm a big fan of playing both offense and defense. And although it could get you some more money, the question there is, I would, instead of trying to, squeeze the turnip for a little bit more, I'd want the stability of the turnip staying where it is. That's me personally. Bill Dittern said, where are you still finding off-market sub-2 creative finance deals? Great question. So I used to go direct to seller. Bandit size, cold call, text, direct mail, you name it. I now run 100% referral-based or repeat-based business. So I'm trying to think. 60+% of my deals come from agents. So agents coming to me with either an on-market or a pocket listing. Again, and 90+% of my deals are creative, subject to seller finance, okay? So I just mentioned I have 4 new constructions under contract. They were listed on the MLS. I know the agent/builder. That one, I'm getting seller finance on it. But those, so they, yes, are listed, but at the same time, it's relationship based. I just run a different model. And so for me, it's, my referrals come from, literally my handyman that was at my house this morning, his daughter. So listen to this, his daughter, now again, hers is listed with an agent, but my handyman who's done a ton of work for me, he was at my house this morning, reinstalling our dishwasher and doing some repair on the flooring because we had a leak. And his daughter, listen to this, y'all. His daughter married a guy from Europe, here in the U.S., they're here in the U.S. And that guy's parents exited from a business for millions and millions of dollars. And so as a present, the parents bought him and her $1 million house here in the area. Well, they have their old house that has a mortgage on it. So they have a free and clear $1 million house they just moved into. So then they put their old house up for sale that has a mortgage that's like, $2+ grand a month. And what? It's sitting on the market, and every month they're having to put $2,000 out. And he originally was like, because I have him, he came to my house, and then he's going to some of my other properties either before or after the storm hits this week. And so I was just lining up projects with him, and he said, hey, can you help my daughter? And I'm like, okay. And sure enough, he's talking to me, and I'm like, all day long, this sounds like I'm going to buy her house subject to. So she's reaching out to me, and I'm going to talk with her and say, talk to me about what you're all trying to accomplish. But everything I'm hearing right now is I'm going to buy that house. She's stressing because she has to pay $2 grand every month, plus utilities, plus grass, while it's for sale. And I'm going to say, hey, in the event that I can relieve you of making that payment every month, I can take over making those payments. Would you be open to hearing about that? And see what she says. So referrals and relationships. Tamala says, I have a paid for property. Do you think it's wise to do a HELOC to buy additional property? Absolutely. I think it could be possible. That's what I did. So when I bought my first property, I went ahead and I used a HELOC again to buy deal 2, 3, and 4. And I'm thankful for that. I haven't used it since, and I think the last time I used it was 2016 or something like that. Those aren't the main ways that I do my deals. I use the 2 ways I buy deals is with creative financing or private money. So if I ever say, hey, I'm buying something with cash, it's like literally someone wants to get a return on their money, and I'm using their money to buy, with cash. And so I'm a big fan, but look, very early on, I used that HELOC to help me get more. Connie said, can't wait to attend your next mastermind. Missed the last one. Hey, look, I appreciate that. I am right now thinking through 2025. I'll be honest, very busy between now and the end of 2024. So I'm thinking more in lines of 2025 right now with my next workshops. And I do want to bring back the safe subject to masterclass. I'm actually cooking up some other stuff too. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I'll let you guys know whenever that happens. All right, let me see. Any other questions? I've enjoyed hanging out with you guys today. For those who are just now tuning in, my goal for the next 10 days is to go live daily with you guys, answering questions about real estate, talking about creative financing, talking about deal structuring, all of that. So if you guys got questions, I am here to hang out, whether that's talking about a deal breakdown, talking about, someone was asking about book recommendations earlier, kind of go from there. Hey, Ivory, how's it going? Any deals you mind breaking down? Okay. Let's see. Do you guys want to hear? Let me tell you about one of my last subject to deals I just bought. So, and this is something I want to encourage you to think about. So, I had a wholesaler reach out to me about a deal. It was for those of you who heard me share earlier. It's a legacy property. It's a 2012 build. And in a nice neighborhood with an HOA, good area, right? But they had gone through a nasty divorce, and the wife took it out on the house, and they were facing foreclosure. And cash wise, they couldn't, the wholesaler couldn't make it work. They tried, plus the ex-wife was sabotaging the deal. And then ultimately he called me one day. He said, Courtney, I just want this seller to get some help. What do you think? All right, let me take a look at it. And I said, look, let me see if I can make it make sense, looking at the existing debt, right? Subject to. So I go ahead and he puts me in touch with the seller, and he said, if you can make anything work, just whatever you can send my way. So I'm talking with the seller here. He had a first mortgage. He had a second mortgage, which was from a previous loan modification. It's like 11, hold on, I've got it. I'm not going to show you guys this because it has all my properties on it. Here, maybe I'll show you something. Yeah, maybe I'll see if I can do that. Well, look, all right, so I bought the property. So he had a first mortgage, and then he had a second mortgage that was $11,753, but it didn't have any monthly payments. So he owed the 11,700, but he didn't have to make payments on it. And then he had he had an HOA and a credit card judgment. And between the condition of the house, I spent 30, I think I budgeted 35, which was one of the bigger renovations I've done in a while. Like I said, I've gotten a little bit lazy, but so first mortgage, second mortgage, 2 judgments, right? And then the house was in bad condition. And the house was worth, I would say, around like 265, but it got super tight between all those things going on. And so I said, well, look, let me see. But I said, man, this is a 2012 build, all of that. And it was a good area, and I'll tell you the few things that made me pull the trigger on this one. You know what? Let me see what I can do. Hold on. I broke this deal down in my my safe subject to deal, subject to masterclass, and let me pull up the manual and show you guys from this. So this is a deal that a lot of people couldn't make it happen. But I want to tell you one of the things here is ultimately I was able to make it work because I was able to think bigger. I was able to think outside just the deal. All right. So let me. All right. So this is my manual from the Safe Subject to Deals class. It's a 134-page manual. So here's a breakdown. All right. So this is that 2012. So it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, just over 2,000 square foot. Just overall great area. Okay. And let me show you ultimately what the numbers look like. So the ARV at the time when I bought it was 265, and they had between the first and the second, it was 155. Okay. And then market rent, I put it at 1,900. Their PITI day one was 1173. And then it was a 3.375% interest rate. That 3.375%, what year do you guys think that they got that 3% loan? Any guesses? Let's see. So if you guys remember, they were in, by the way, to answer to that, so Tamala said 2020, right? Because people were getting 3% loans back then, right? Connie said 2020. Gabriella said 2020. Guess what? That 3% loan was from 2012. 2012. Ain't that crazy? And then, well, let's do this. Average interest rates by year. I think this one has a good one. This might not be what I'm looking for. I digress. I have it somewhere else, but I'll show you guys. Literally, I have it. I think I actually have it in this manual where it shows you each different year. And back in 2012, the average interest rate was in the 3%. And so this is a loan from, so I ended up buying this property subject to a 2012 loan, 30-year loan at 3.375. I just, in 2020, and I bought this house in 2024. I literally stepped into, literally 12 years into the 30-year loan. Ain't that crazy? And so then, if you remember, they were in foreclosure, so I had to catch up the loan by $15,000. I didn't pay any commissions. This was an off-market deal. The repairs were $35,000. And then I also had to pay for additional liens and judgments. I ended up needing $72,000 to buy this property. So, let me see. Here, look at this real quick while I pull something up. That's right. So, all right. See, this has all my property breakdown, which I guess I don't mind sharing, but anyway, it gives me the breakdown of all my properties and the numbers. But I needed $72,000 to close. So the loans were $155 plus $72, and it was worth $265. That started getting tight. So if the loans were, so the first and second were $155, the $72 was going to be the arrears, the repairs. It was going to be the two liens and judgments I actually was able to negotiate and pay off. And it was closing costs, stuff like that. So $155 plus the $72,000. So $72,000 was all those costs I had to bring to the table. $227. And like I said, it's worth $265. So if you take that $227 and you divide it by $265, that's 86%. So I've got a rule of thumb. Whenever I use private money, so that's where that $72,000 came from, I don't like for all of the debt on the property to be more than 85%. So if you see here, it's 86. And I just didn't love it. So here's what I did. I got two. So I needed $72,000, right? I went ahead and I got two $36,000 loans. And I put one on this property. And then I put the $36,000 on the second loan on another property that had a lot of equity. And I paid that person 10% interest only. This is my highest private money loan right now. 10% interest only. So it's a $36,000 loan is getting 10% interest only, $300 a month. It's a 5-year term. And I gave, I have two $36,000 loans I did with an individual. One individual ended up giving me the loans on both. So let's look at these numbers. So it's actually rented. I ran the numbers as $1,900 and we got $1,850. The current PITI is $11,773. By the way, $400 of that is paying down the principal every month. There's a $44 a month HOA. And after my property management cost, my private money, which is $300 a month, I'm getting $148 in cash flow. You don't look, cash flow this is the last thing that I look at. I'm looking at my principal pay down. I'm also looking at, I get to, use this for depreciation, so tax benefits. And, but look, my main thing was this is a 2012 house in a great neighborhood. I mean, literally, I bought it from the original owner, 4-bedroom, 2-bath in an HOA neighborhood. How many of you guys would want to have rentals like this? When I say legacy properties, this is what I'm talking about. I want 25 nice houses in nice neighborhoods like this. And so I've been improving my portfolio for stuff like this. So my mobile home parks, all of my, my, what I would call my older stock single family houses. So maybe that they're, it's older, not in a great neighborhood, all of that. This is the types of deals that I'm doing now. Any questions, you guys? So was that helpful for you guys to see? So that was that was one of the most recent subject to deals that I've done. But the best thing I loved about it was that it was a 2012 loan. And look, it's got so much, so if you take the 12 years that's already been paid, I mean, there's literally 18 years left on that loan. And, creative financing has allowed me to really take, it's really allowed me to take, like, for example, a whole bunch of people, like if you did the Burr method, different things, a lot of people go and they get 30-year loans. So they have a whole bunch of properties that are 30-year loans. So how long is it going to take them to pay it down? Roughly 30 years, right? Unless they, do something extreme, they pay it off early. So what I went ahead and did is, creative financing has allowed me to step into 12 years into that 30-year process, right? And so there's a level there that, creative financing, I mean, my free and clear properties came from creative financing. Almost all of them did. And so that's something that, you want, to keep in mind, depending what your goals are. All right, I'm going to take a few more questions here. We've been going at it for an hour, you guys. You guys are animals. You guys are great. All right. Mix Master Musco. How do you figure out what to charge for rent for a single family home that you purchased? So great question. I have, let's see, Michelle, Wayne. I have 5 different property managers. I just wanted to count them and make sure. I have 5 different property managers who manage my properties. I'm under contract to buy 4 new rentals right now. So what did I did? I did some research myself, but then I reached out to the manager who I would have manage these, and she gave me her feedback on what she thought they would rent for. If you're going to manage yourself, then you're going to have to get good at running comps. I'll say this, it's really difficult because if you're basing it off the MLS, so many people don't put their houses for rent in the MLS. But what I like is experienced property managers who know the areas like the back of their hand. Literally, hey, I've already rented something in that area. So, for example, there's a neighborhood where there's a lot of houses going for rent right now. It's a huge development. So the owners can't sell because they're competing against the builder who's still building. And so a lot of the owners who are wanting to sell, because stuff is sitting on the market, they're just putting up for rent. So a lot of people in those situations have been calling me to buy their house. And so I've been thinking maybe I'll buy some of them subject to. And I've been nervous because I'm like, man, this place might get saturated because the builder's not going to stop building for a while. Right? So this problem's going to continue to go. And So this was, I mean, I called my property manager and she's like, I just rented 3 in the past few months out there. And she's like, be careful for this, be careful for, this size floor plan, be careful for, this part of the development. But if you can do this and this, all of them, they can move quickly. Yeah, there's a lot for rent right now, but if you price it right, if you avoid certain parts of the neighborhood, the development, or if you avoid like the smallest floor plans, like stuff like that, that is valuable to me. So I personally don't self-manage. And so therefore, when it comes time to running the numbers on a deal, I call out to the team member I'm going to depend on for that deal. And so as you saw on that breakdown of that deal, I underwrote the numbers at 1,900, but I got 1,850. I lucked out because they had pets, and so I actually get pet rent as well. So I think they have 2 dogs and a cat, so I think the cat's 15, the 2 dogs are 25 each, and so like pretty much we've done it. Build and Earn said, on the 2012 property, would you lease option it after repairs? Hell no. That is a legacy property for me. I am very hesitant to sell the good ones. I sold too many. I've wholesaled. I've renovated and sold. I've sold on creative financing. I am not wanting to get rid of the good ones. So everything that I currently lease option is the stuff that's not what I call a legacy property, meaning it's not in a great neighborhood. It's not 1990 or newer, all that stuff. So when it qualifies as a legacy property, you're going to pull it. My exit strategy is, I don't want to say this, but like jokingly, my exit strategy is death. Or I'm going to trade it up for a nicer property. Connie said, one last question. Do your property managers also take care of repairs and send you a bill? Yes. Generally speaking, they do. Sometimes they'll say, hey, do you have a guy that you want to, like basically a preferred guy? So sometimes I will, but one of my properties, the dishwasher was giving the tenant issues. And so I said, look, I don't have a guy available for that right now. So they're getting someone. So a lot of great questions, you guys. Well, look, we've been at this for over an hour. For the next 10 days, I'm going to go live. So my goal is to do it around 8 or 9 a.m. This morning, I had a contractor in my house, so I want to make sure you guys could hear me. But appreciate you guys asking questions. Look, I want these lives to be, I'm more than happy to break down deals. I'm more than happy to talk through stuff with you guys, talk about your deals, whatever that looks like. So have a great rest of your day. I'm going to see if I can save this, something like that, and put it up on my YouTube channel. All right. I'm going to answer this last question. Jordan, you're going to be my last question. How about straight seller carry? Livable but dated, could use 80K remodel, trying to come up with something fair, knowing the work needed. Yeah, Jordan, absolutely. So any strategy works. It's just, what is the seller trying to accomplish? Deals get done because what you offer them is better than what they have. So ultimately, I've been able to offer seller financing to sellers, right? And look, and here's the thing is, if I can rent it out as it currently is, I might rent it out for a bit, and then after another cycle, or at a discounted rent because it's dated or whatever. But then from there, I might say, hey, after a while, then I go renovate, right? Or it depends. I would, at the end of the day, I don't believe you have to overpay. So I believe you can still get wholesale terms where, yeah, it needs work. Great. I will build that into my seller finance offer. And from there, so I'm buying 4 brand new construction real estate right now, finished new construction. And so I'm getting them inspected, which is weird. I don't often get home inspections, but I'm getting them inspected. And so it's like one of those things where I'm like, well, So what can you negotiate when it needs, let's just say they come back and find out it needs work. Well, you can negotiate the price. You can negotiate, the interest rate. You can negotiate the term. You can negotiate the first few months of payments, right? So instead of making payments day one after you close, you can say, hey, well, in lieu of these repairs, what if I make you your first payment 6 months after we close? And you can get in there in 30 days, knock it out, and start renting it out. Like there's a tons of way that you can do it. But here's the thing is, you want to structure the deal based on, what they need. And there's times where some sellers, they want the whole world. And I say, look, I can't give you that, but let me tell you what I can give you. And I just find out what they value. I had one seller recently just valued the purchase price. So I said, great. I mean, it's deep for me, but let me tell you how I can do it. And, it was with like 4% interest over 30 years. And, no down payment. I just paid for the closing cost, and there was agents involved. So I was going to pay for that. And, I said, okay, like if that's what you value, this is how I can give it to you. And it was at a monthly amount that I can afford, meaning that my tenants can afford. So you want to keep that in mind. And if you're going to buy with seller financing, you have to figure out, where the 80 in renovation is going to come from, But all right, you guys, Jordan, great question. See you guys tomorrow, probably around 8 o'clock Central Time. I'm going to go live again. Thanks for the questions. I really appreciate it. It allows for us to kind of get into the fun nitty gritty stuff. So, all right, guys, have a great rest of your day. And I'm going to find a way to save this to put it up on the YouTube channel. All right, guys, thanks.